You're listening to Australia's national youth radio station, Triple J. For more info, go to triplej.net.au.
Sunday Night Safran. Religion, politics, culture, and lisping.
Father Bob Maguire.
Yeah, we were dobbed.
You were dobbed?
Yeah, that's why I'm late. I've just come out of the cells.
For people who listen on the podcast from places such as the Ukraine.
Ukraine, exactly.
We got a message. Hello in the Ukraine when you listen to us.
Somebody in the Ukrainian prison system.
Anyway, dob. If you're in the Ukraine, dob in Australia means, what does dob mean?
It means to
tell.
To betray.
Betray. Anyway, so you got, who dobbed you in?
During the middle of one night, apparently in recent history, one neighbour's walking around the block doing nothing, and all of a sudden there's a leak in the front garden. I put it to you...
Hang on, I've got to fill in for the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, we're having a big, water drought-type situation at the moment. So.
Yes. This is what Stalin did, probably.
It's good how you're relating it to our Ukrainian audience.
Exactly. This is how it begins, with the tiny persecutions.
And for our East German listeners listening, they're like the Stasi.
Exactly, and they've got files on people who have slow leaks in their front garden. Anyhow, there's this trickle of water coming out from the church's front garden, and your conscientious neighbour spies this, doesn't leap to the conclusion that some drunk has happened to stand up against a tree and is relieving himself.
No.
But immediately, through some inherited bias, says the Roman Catholics are breaking the law.
No doubt sectarianism.
Exactly.
Do you know, it would have been an Ulster loyalist.
What does she do?
Dob?
She rings east, what do you call it?
East, west, what? You were dobbed in.
Dobbed.
So that she didn't come to you.
No, Sylvie rang.
Because all those miracles that happened with the Virgin Mary crying, the statues and stuff.
Could have been anything.
It could have been anything.
Well,
it could have been a miracle.
We have a statue in the front garden anyway.
Yeah.
And if I'd been facetious and written back and said, "Dear Sir or Madam, Mr. and Mrs. Eastwater," that statue regularly weeps. Now, you do a DNA test on the water and see if it is not lacrimosa.
Get Mike Willissy in to do a DNA test.
Anyhow, Sylvie, I won't string this out like you do. Sylvie rang up. Sylvie's the commissar.
From South East Water.
And said, "Listen, sir, you're under arrest."
No, she didn't. What did she tell you? What did you get punished with?
We haven't been punished yet. We're warned. I said, "Would you please reveal the identity of whoever it is who done it? Because that woman deserves a medal." The dobber. If she's got that keen an eyesight in the middle of the night to see a leak.
Yeah, but you'd send, when you find out what she's like, you're going to send your boys, your little Catholic boys in their real IRA balaclavas over to her, and there's going to be a reprisal.
No, I'll send her a medal that makes her a member of the Order of St. Peter and St. Paul and immediately qualifies her for eternal life.
Bob,
anyway,
we have many interesting guests on today's
we've got Mr.
show.
Anthony Venn-Brown.
Anthony Venn-Brown, he was high up at the Assemblies of God as an evangelical minister.
Yes.
He spread the word for the Pentecostal movement.
Yeah.
And then a few years back, he
fell from grace.
Came out as a homosexual. And he's going to tell us about all the consequences of that. We also have your friend.
Oh, your friend.
Your friend.
Dr. Phillip Nitschke.
He's our suicide doctor.
Is he coming into the studio?
If you're in the Ukraine, he's our version of...
Dr. Mengele.
No, that's if you're in...
Germany.
Germany or whatever. If you're in America, he's our equivalent of Jack Kevorkian, I guess. Anyway, he's going to go to the... He had a book held up at customs.
And he was also in the paper last week.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about...
we?
Well, we can if you want. I'm not censoring you. I'm just saying that the overall gist is that new laws were introduced recently that pretty much no one knows about in Australia because, we're just apathetic, which restrict freedom of speech for distributing what's happening at the same time. So anyway, just went through Parliament or whatever. Anyway, so the he's had his books held up. He got them printed up in America, and they got held up at customs.
Did they?
Then the Office of Film and Literature Classification said, they can come on in, but they've got to have a special badge on them saying they're... And then Ruddock, Phil Ruddock.
Yeah, our friend.
For our friends in the Ukraine, he's the equivalent of your Vos Stanistan Vos Skrybsky, said he wants a retrial. Well, not a retrial, re-examination. So he's going to have to go on Wednesday to see whether they're going to ban his book or not.
Because this book helps you to
kill yourself.
Pull the plastic bag over your head, doesn't it?
It does.
And last time he was talking to you and me, don't forget he had a handful of pills.
That was on our SBS television program.
He had the killer pills.
Did you know that we weren't allowed to broadcast that on the internet?
No.
Every other episode of the show could go up on the internet. Except that episode, because...
Who was that banned by? The Australian Federal Police?
Well, it kind of depends. The new laws hadn't quite come in at that point, which said it's a bit iffy as to whether you can put stuff like that up on the internet in Australia.
Yeah.
We can discuss these laws further with him. I'm probably getting into too much detail now. Yeah. But I think SBS just wanted to play it safe. They've always been good to me. I'm not going to kick up a stink.
Nobody.
We've got Ilana Mercer.
Interesting woman.
South African, now living in America.
Yeah.
But she reckons that Boers... Can you explain who the Boers are?
Dutch immigrants in South Africa.
Yes.
1800 and something.
And, been on the farms and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And there's a slight ethnic distinction between them and other Afrikaners.
Yes.
Although there's crossover.
Yes.
Anyway, she'll explain it all.
Yes.
Anyway, she says that in the last 10 years, there's been something amounting to a genocide of these Boer farmers, because about 2,000 have been killed.
Yeah.
And just because it kind of, I don't know, again, it's too hard and we're all apathetic, and everyone kind of liked that happy ending to the narrative where Nelson Mandela's free.
And Tutu and all that.
And then the ANC come to power and it's the end of apartheid, and then that's like, that's a happy ending and stuff like that.
This has disturbed me, this woman, because I had the happy ending syndrome too, see.
To South Africa.
All right. Yeah, and reconciliation and peace on earth. Yeah. This lady's telling us that's not true.
It's just not true. I think possibly the 5.3 million people in South Africa with HIV.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes, maybe
due to
it
church.
Hasn't been. Well, I don't think it is due to your church. In a bizarre twist, I am not blaming the Catholic Church for AIDS in Africa. And in fact, it's one of my... Is bugbear's the right word?
Yeah.
I can't stand... I get it. Okay, criticise the Vatican, right, for saying, you shouldn't wear condoms, right? But in reality, if you look at the continent of Africa, it's not like a Catholic continent.
No, but it's getting... Yeah, go on.
So I'm
not going to talk you out of this.
I'd say that the Vatican saying don't wear condoms... Okay, I'll be generous. That's 5% of the problem, and I'm being freaking generous.
What's the rest?
The rest are problems that have nothing to do with whether the Catholic Church allows has a policy or not.
I'd like you to make
For
a
example,
note of that, readers.
Don't you reckon that... And we'll talk
Catholic
about this.
archbishops.
We'll talk about this with your friend. Don't you reckon that Thabo Mbeki...
Yes.
The president of South Africa, who... Do you know he's an AIDS denier? You know what an AIDS denier is? These are these conspiracy theorists who believe that HIV isn't what they say it is, and it's like it's the pharmaceutical companies making it up so they can make billions of dollars. It's totally loopy, right? He's the president of South Africa. He was an AIDS denier, and apparently for years, whilst he's heading the country with the greatest number of people suffering this problem.
Yes.
So he's an AIDS conspiracy theorist running the country, and then apparently only very recently it's kind of the policy of his government has changed. So that, and when I say change, they're acknowledging that AIDS is actually something and not like made up like the fake moon landing. But apparently he still believes that behind closed doors, and it's just because his parliament or his government, his cabinet have overruled him and he can't do nothing about it. Anyway, so I'd say perhaps maybe all these lefty pinkos should have spent a bit more time complaining about Thabo Mbeki, the president of South Africa, being an AIDS denier. Maybe they should have spent a bit more time lobbying against that and, mixed amongst whinging about whether the Pope over in Rome has a policy about condoms or not. Man, I've suddenly become... What's happened to this show?
We've finished the show already. I mean, we don't need to interview these people.
And then after...
I'm interested in this one because I can't quite wrap my head around this.
About...
I was a teenage Gopi girl.
Yeah, I can't... he's going to come on in. He's our kind of loose...
But what it says, Gopi girl.
Yeah, I know. But, people these days... things are confusing.
In here, in the flesh?
I think so.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, no, not in the flesh. Our producer.
Oh, that's bad luck.
Liz, our producer, is saying not in the flesh.
Hare Krishna?
He was involved in the Hare Krishna movement. And then... he didn't kind of like how he felt they were a bit homophobic, so he got out of it, but now he's sort of in it. Anyway, he writes a lot about his experiences, so he's going to give us the inside goss.
Yeah, and he sings and dances, this man.
He does. I don't know if he'll do that.
Well, it says chants from the Krishna worshipping tradition.
That could be
and also they give you good
awkward
feeds,
radio, though.
Have you had a feed?
He gives you free feed. Yeah, it's good.
Have you?
Yeah,
around the world, have you?
No, when I was in uni, down in Swanson Street, because I went to RMIT, like all beret
the working
wearing
class,
beret wearing Che Guevara groupies went to, and we'd go down the street and we'd go to the Hare Krishna restaurant and get like the $2 feed or whatever.
And good tucker?
I did. I once had a. In fact, I can talk to him about this. It's like a crossover. I once had a gay experience at a Hare Krishna restaurant.
Truly?
I'm nearly sure I've told this anecdote before, though.
No, I've never heard of that.
About my gay experience at the Hare Krishna restaurant.
Not in the Hare Krishna rice bowl.
Maybe. I think it's because there was only a slight detail in the anecdote. I'm sure when I start saying it, you'll go, oh, that one. It's because the whole Hare Krishna thing's a bit of a throwaway. Anyway, I don't think we should get him to sing a song because could be awkward radio. A bit like, sometimes people ring up overnight talkback radio, like on the AM dial, and it's, hey, Keith, I've got a poem here. And then, Keith has to kind of say, oh, well, I'd love to hear it, because it's it's a very old...
Could be your last poem.
I know, and it's a very old person, and, you have empathy towards old people, and they're probably their families have left them, because, the husband's died and the kids are just selfish, trying to work out how to...
on the streets
going, oh, well, I guess we could turn up and kind of, she did give birth to us and stuff like that, but, there's this great plasma TV set over here, so I think we'll just sit around here and, whatever. Oh, don't worry, we'll give a nice eulogy at the funeral and stuff to, absolve us of our guilt. Anyway, so then Keith says, okay, go ahead with the poem, and then it starts off, and then you think it's going to end after about the 30-second mark, and you're there going, because you're lying in bed going, oh, God, thank God, it's not awkward. And then just when you think the poem's going to end, she's wrapped it up. No.
So Keith,
and there's another stanza. And then it's just going on for 9 minutes. Oh, man.
Well, it's one way of putting you to sleep, isn't it?
No, I'm too tense. I'm lying there in bed.
Oh, God.
I love overnight radio on the AM dial.
You wouldn't miss this for quids, would you?
Do you ever listen to Keith McGowan overnight on 3AW, which is Melbourne? What's the Alan Jones station in Sydney? 2GB or 2D? I don't know. Whatever that's we got 3AW and it's our equivalent.
Might to be 2UE or something.
And they've got Keith McGowan overnight.
And he snap all night.
Yeah, he does, and all old people ring. Except occasionally a kiddie rings, and when I say a kiddie, I mean anyone under 68, and everyone gets excited. Anyway, there's this one kid, I haven't listened for years, but I used to always listen, and there was this one kid he used to ring and get all excited because he was blind, and he used to play his keyboard over, so he'd put the phone down and play the keyboard and sing a song. And all the oldies, then for the next hour, all the oldies would go, oh, isn't he wonderful? Oh, he's so talented and stuff. It's very good. Antique evaluations, too, on Keith McGowan's Overnighters.
Really?
In fact, we could do antique...
What, did you describe it or what?
Yeah, people describe what their antique
is.
What,
there's an antique lying in bed beside me, Mr McGowan, and it's very white and pale and it's shaped like a human being and it's been here for 20 years. Don't know what it is, Mr. McGowan. And he says, well, it's probably your husband, you fool.
If you have an antique, just go to triplej.net.au/Safran and go to the guest book and then just describe the details of your antique on the guest book, and me and Bob will evaluate it next week.
Oh, God.
Coming up next...
there's no next tonight, I'm telling you.
Anthony Venn-Brown.
Oh, that's nice.
This is Triple J. I'm John Safran. That man over there is Father Bob Maguire.
Did you go to the big day out?
I didn't. I was up in Sydney doing the...
Triple J's thing.
Hottest 100.
And did you like... who won the 100? You were there,
Augie
John?
March.
Beautiful.
Eskimo Joe were quiet because I was backstage with them.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to act polite about it. I actually thought if you're number 2 on the Hottest 100, I thought that's, wow, what a success.
Yeah.
Except because I was backstage and Eskimo Joe was so...
Depressed.
Well, they were sort of like beforehand, sort of trying to feel out because, like, we knew the list and they didn't.
Oh, you knew and they didn't?
Yeah, all us Triple J employees knew the list. It was trying to feel out whether they'd won or not. So then, because of that context, I was just thinking, you losers, number 2. But winners otherwise. Now, Father Bob, we can talk about that later. Joining us down the line is Anthony Venn-Brown, author.
Have you taken the book?
Yeah, I've got the book here. A Life of Unlearning, A Journey to Find the Truth.
Oh, I've got the book too.
Anthony, are you there?
Yes, I am, John. How are you?
We've both got the book.
Good.
Father Bob.
How are you, mate?
Look, I had...
Did we ever work together in YWAM?
You know, I was involved with YWAM for a while, but I don't remember you. But I want to tell you, Father Bob, I love you.
Oh, thank you.
You are fantastic.
But I'm not in the book.
Well, give me 2
what
more
about your
years, I'll do a
sordid
rewrite.
What about your sordid? Maybe in the next edition, put your sordid affair with Father Bob in the book.
I should say that love that I have for you is not a homosexual love.
No, it was
you know that.
The Roman Pope has divided love now into 3 different kinds. Isn't it typical? We now have a definition.
I thought that's been around for a while.
Well, but he's made it clearer, and he's written an encyclical, and it's boring.
Now, you were formerly a evangelical minister for the Assemblies of God. Now, they're the big Pentecostal group in Australia.
Yeah,
they have the mega churches. They're Hillsong Pentecostal. They're associated with that crew.
Assemblies of God Church. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then, of course, you fell from grace. But let's go back to the start. Now, what was it like being gay in Australia growing up in the 1960s?
Well, it was like this, John. When I first heard the word homo, that was the first derogatory term that I heard. I did actually ask my mother, what is a homo? And Mum quickly sort of let me know that these were men who actually went to prison.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, after a little bit more research, I discovered that, mental health professionals used aversion therapy, lobotomy, they were incarcerated. And then, one of the probably the strongest messages to me at that point was in my years in high school, there were 2 guys who were pretty obviously gay who harassed so much that they
killed
actually
themselves.
Killed themselves, yeah.
Terrible story.
I had lots of messages that were telling me, you don't want to be this person. In fact, you need to do everything to change it and hide any evidence that you might possibly be gay.
Now, I was interested in one bit of your book. Sometimes like just a little detail is as interesting as the big overall themes. And you said you instinctively knew, or you somehow instinctively knew to like walk down this street and that's where you'll be picked up by the car. Can you go... I didn't quite understand that. Are you saying that, like, were there stories going about that that's the street you hang out at if you want to be picked up? This is when, how old were you then?
I was about 15, 16.
About 15. So were there, like, rumours around the school or were there stories you'd heard?
No one's ever asked that question before. You know what? And I think I know what it is now that you've asked that question.
Yes.
And it is that, sexuality is beginning to awaken in you at that age. And, of course, all my friends were finding sexual expression.
Yes.
With their girlfriends, and were exploring and experimenting, and I had no desire to do that with girls, but there was something awakening within me, and maybe that's what was beginning.
But how did you know to walk down that street? Like, how did you know that if you walked down that street, a car would stop and you could negotiate the deal?
I didn't. I just started walking at night just to go out for a walk.
That's so strange, isn't it? Like, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
So you didn't know that, but then you end up, you're down the street, and then the car stops. For, like, the first time this would have happened, and you somehow have this instinct in you that, what you do if you walk up to this car, and in the car is going to be a gay person. It's not going to be, I don't know, just someone stopping.
There can be a gay person in the car.
No, don't you think, though, as human beings, that we are quite spiritually aware, we are quite instinctive?
I know.
Yes. And there's all those things, too, that somebody's been talking about recently, Anthony, what are those things called? Pheromones.
Yes,
now, that's
right.
spooky, see, but that explains to me, who are an old celibate male, that, in fact, there's more going on than we even dream of with regards to attraction.
If it makes you feel any better, when you're straight and young, everything's confusing too. Like, I would be in my head, like, before I was a teenager, going, well, what actually happens? You're in a room, and then what, does the girl, like, put her hand on your arm, or do you have to put it on her? And it just kind of goes around in your head for years and years until you have a breakdown.
So you related to the story?
I did relate to the story. Except that bit where you go off to become an evangelical minister.
It's sad for 40 years. Isn't it?
Yes, and there are still so many people.
That's right, the end of the book, Anthony, excuse me interrupting you, that's the last chapter, where you, in fact, make a kind of an apologia, not an apologia, you make a plea almost, that people should, in fact, take an interest in persons like yourself, who are confused and tortured and, in fact, take an interest and start doing something about changing the social climate.
If I could show you the folder that I have of all the hundreds of emails I've had from people who've shared their stories of torment and, the trauma that some of them have been through, I'm sure people would be amazed at the shocking consequences that happens in individuals' lives, because the church often still holds on to this archaic belief that homosexuality is a sin. They don't see it as a sexual orientation.
Now, do you have any thoughts about the psychology of church people not accepting gays? Is it really as simple as, these people were a blank page, and then they read the Bible, and the Bible had a couple of sentences about how homosexuality is wrong, and therefore they're going to go off and take this attitude and be really forceful about not accepting homosexuality? Or is there something just in us as people, or at least, in us as people who don't want to... We think that you're bad for the community because, you're not going to breed or something like that.
I think there's a lot of factors, John. I think one of the factors is, of course, that the church has difficulty talking about sexuality because there's that division between the spirit and the flesh, and they see those two things warring. But I think another factor is, of course, that if you're gay or lesbian, you're not in the majority. You're in the minority, and often the minority are feared and they're not understood. And one of the things that I'm discovering now is that there are people within Pentecostal churches which are changing their view and their understanding. And one of the major impacts of that is, one of the major causes of that is that they actually are getting to know some gay and lesbian people. Whereas before, they'd sort of had shunned them and rejected them and certainly would not engage them in friendship or conversation because they thought they were so disgusting.
And you also touch on in your book when you're at school that a lot of the people, at least some of the people you thought were persecuting the more overtly gay people, were like gay themselves, as you were later to discover.
Yes.
Which makes everything really confusing, because that's always been confusing for me, the fact that a lot of homophobia would actually not be straight people hassling gay people, but kind of gay people hassling gay people.
Are you not sure how that works?
No, it's not that. It's just kind of like an interesting way to look at it, because I guess like on one level we're all thinking, it's all these really mega straight people who are persecuting gays, but there's an aspect of homophobia where it's actually gay people oppressing gay people.
There's been research which has shown that, and what it shows is that this person hates that within themselves, and in their desire to destroy that and what they hate in themselves, they take that hatred out on another person, a gay person. And murders have happened that way. And, there is this research that they do, and I can't think of the word, but it's where they strap something to your penis.
Oh, fun job.
Yeah, so we go in for that. That's the albino monk
Play some orthography.
in Da Vinci Code. He had one of them on.
So when the penis begins to enlarge, they can measure it. So what they did was they measured people like this who were homophobic and showed them certain photos, male nudes and female nudes, and the homophobic people reacted to the same sex images.
Yes, of course.
I think there's going to be a great new segment on our show, Father Bob, now that we know of this device.
Indeed, yeah.
Now, tell us about some of the things you did to try to cure your homosexuality, and I'm assuming the exorcism's the best bit. So does that mean you save that till last, or do you just blow your load first with that?
So to speak.
By the way, that wasn't meant to be a double entendre. I don't work like that. Anyway, tell us about the exorcism.
We don't do blue here.
We don't do blue.
No. I'll let you do the humour.
Yes.
Okay, so it began actually in high school because it wasn't until 1973 that the American Psychiatric Association actually took homosexuality off the list of mental disorders. So when I went to a psychiatrist in 1967, they thought they could cure me, but that didn't work. And that was actually what took me into the church, Father Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was feeling tormented and I knew that this had to change and I wouldn't be accepted. So I thought God was going to heal me.
Yes.
And so I got really involved in the church. I became a Christian, born again Christian.
But at the end, God did heal you, according to the story, isn't it? Right at the end.
Hey,
I've interrupted.
We need the exorcism first.
Thank you.
Just get to the exorcism for God's sake.
So then, and all the time, I'm struggling and I'm praying every day. I used to go to the church and cry at night when it was, when churches used to be open at night, Father Bob.
Yeah.
And so then I went to Bible college, and in the Bible college, when I talked to the principal about what I was going, he says, I know the problem. You've got demons. This is a demon. So
that's what that would have been my diagnosis too.
Well, you know so well about all that stuff. And then that's what you're famous for, isn't it? The exorcism. Mm. Then I went up to Auckland for 3 weeks, and and every weekend they were casting demons out of me. When I came back to Australia,
what did they actually do? Did they hold on to you and throw water on you?
Lots of yelling.
Yelling. Did you react in any way, or were you just like?
There was some contorting going on. What I've since discovered is that often the evidences of an exorcism are actually the symptoms of hyperventilation.
Ah.
Because, I was asked to do lots of breathing. So you said, breathe deeply. Yes, I'm breathing deeply.
Was there anything to that? Did you feel any demons in you come out or anything like that? Or?
No. After all that screaming and heavy breathing, I felt relieved at the end.
Yes. Wish to God they'd stop.
That's right. Yeah. Then when I came back to Australia, then I thought, I've really got to get over this. And then I went into Australia's first ex-gay program to become a heterosexual. That was the next step.
And did that work? I once saw some doco on that on SBS, and there was all these gay men, or kind of formerly gay men, and they're all in a room together, and they have to live together for about a month or whatever, trying to help each other out. I'm just thinking, isn't that sort of... Aren't you just sowing the seeds of...
We don't
falling off the wagon. Shouldn't there be some women there?
What I've discovered, because this is the second edition of my book.
Yes.
And what I've discovered is, I've connected with almost everybody now from my past, because they went, oh my God, a life of unlearning. I knew that guy, and so they've rung me or emailed me. And what I found out is in the ex-gay program that I was in, all these people I'm connected with told me about all the affairs that were going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's
I was a saint.
Now, do you reckon you would have... The bit in the book that I was wondering, would you really have fessed up? Because you were kind of... It's a bit grey, but you were kind of caught. Like by your wife, and you of course try to put this great spin on it that it's because you wrote this letter and you're about to give the letter to your gay lover, but you're about to come out. But in reality, you were caught.
You have read the book.
Yes.
Yeah, I was caught out, like Ted Hackett.
So do you reckon if you weren't caught out by your wife, then she found the love letter you sent to your gay partner? Do you reckon if you weren't caught out, you would have spilled the beans?
Here's what happens, John.
Yes.
Because you feel that, this part of you is so bad and so evil, what you do is you create another persona. And this persona is very deceptive. This persona will lie, and this persona will do things that normally the other person would never, ever do. think of Ted Haggart. And so that person, that person could develop sexual addictions, obsessions, all sorts of things. So, there was too much to lose. But, I thank God today for the very day that I met Jason. Because if I hadn't met Jason, I still today would have no integrity. I would be living a lie. I would be presenting one thing and living another. It'd be completely hypocritical. I'd be living with that stress and that tension and that struggle. But, today I love being a gay man. And, some people still today believe that it's a choice. Well, if it was, I would choose to be gay. I love it.
That's what he says. I'm sorry for that man whose teeth used to fall.
Yeah, that was Jason, yes.
That was Jason. Very sad story, isn't it? But I'm glad you told the whole story, from the glittering beginning to the sad end.
Do you feel that, do you feel I've been honest? Did you feel reading the book?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, no question. In fact, I was interested in your Wagga experience because when you were in Wagga during National Service, I was there as a chaplain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You may have helped me one time.
Could have. 69 to 73 I was there.
Although I used to go to the Everyman's tent, which you probably would know
about.
Which
would be better, I think, because the others would be denominationally biased.
Yeah.
And we'd be the Roman Catholics, although we were the new sensitive age Roman Catholics.
Well, I didn't know that you existed at that stage. I knew Catholic charismatics, but I didn't realise that there was...
No, we'd all been reformed by Vatican II, but most of us still, as you would have found out, army chaplains are probably the machoest of the macho.
Right.
To survive. To survive in that environment. But I maintained my sensitive centre. Like a decent chocolate with a hard centre and a soft covering.
Anthony Venn-Brown, your book is A Life of Unlearning. It's out now. Thank you very much for joining us.
Congratulations.
This is Triple J. That is Father Bob Maguire.
I didn't see you at Soul Mama.
Soul Mama along the Esplanade.
Yeah.
Were you hanging out at Soul Mama?
Yeah, I got an imaginary friend and I. Yeah, and then after that we took in. What did we take in after that? Oh, we took in the History Boys.
Excellent.
The film.
I understand.
Yeah.
Joining us on the line. Put your headphones on or you won't hear him.
Is this Dr. Nitschke?
It is.
Oh, I like Dr. Nitschke.
Dr. Phillip Nitschke, are you there?
Well, yes, I am, and I like being
good on you, mate. Don't let the bastards get you down.
No, well, I'm trying.
Now, you're shorthand, you're the famous euthanasia doctor.
Oh.
Well, he's Phillip Nitschke first.
Yes.
You're Phillip Nitschke as a person, yeah, okay. He's a boy, he's a man.
No, he's inherited the wisdom from his family and
for sure.
Profession.
But now you're constantly in all sorts of legal battles and fights, and they don't really get a lot of publicity for some reason.
No, well, I mean, I guess that's a bit the case of recent times. I mean, there's a couple of legal battles going on, which it'd be nice if we were able to get more attention directed to, because I think they affect all us. Are going to affect all
because they're sort of like they're free speech issues. Yeah. Yet whenever your name gets involved, everyone's like either I'm for euthanasia or I'm anti-euthanasia, and that's the way it's divided. As opposed to, I'm for free speech, and regardless of what I think of euthanasia. Yeah,
now I think that the free speech issue brings in a lot of people, and a lot of younger people, interestingly, than generally find the euthanasia issue very great interest to them.
And we actually talked about this with Mr. Bartlett from the Australian Democrats last year, but we'll have a quick recap, which is new, I guess you would call it, free speech infringing legislation was passed through the parliaments last year without too much attention regarding to exactly how you can talk about and write, and in which forms you can write about suicide.
Yeah, it's the so-called Suicide-Related Materials Act, and it went straight through with the support of the Labor Party through federal parliament, and it's a pretty insidious piece of law. I mean, what it says is you cannot pick up the telephone and talk to another adult Australian about end-of-life choices and options without risking a significant $120,000 fine, and it's all very well to say it relates to websites and email and faxes, but it also relates to the telephone, and of course that's a very significant erosion of one's
because
supposed rights.
On top of whether it's right or wrong, it's ridiculous, because there are forms in which you still are allowed to discuss suicide, and from what I understand, if the Age newspaper wanted to write an article discussing suicide, they would be allowed to do that because this new law doesn't infringe on them. But if you were a journalist writing an article on your computer, you couldn't email The Age, the article, for them to print because you're not allowed to transmit that kind of information electronically.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, part of that is because the federal government controls the so-called electronic media, and it's the state responsibility for the printed word. So they had a little bit of difficulty there, and also they're a bit twitchy, the federal government, about getting into the book burning. So they've kept a bit away from books, and yes, it's true, you can write letters to the paper and send them by Australia Post, but the minute you put it on your computer and try emailing it, then you run foul of this new law.
Which is just strange. Now, about 3 months ago, because as well as the parliamentary laws, you were saying there were some bylaws introduced that were going to stop people importing and exporting the kind of books you're into.
Yes, now those changes came through a couple of years earlier. They came in 2001, and they are amendments to the Customs Act. The first I knew about it was trying to fly out of the country when suddenly after they sweep your passport, there's people standing on either side of you, marching you off to a little room where you find your suitcase, which you hitherto had thought was on the aeroplane, spread out on the table in front of you. And then they told me there'd been changes to the Customs Act. It's now a crime in Australia to import or export so-called suicide-related material, whatever that means. And when they'd gone through my case, supposedly looking for suicide-related material in actual formal printed word, and I was asking things like, do you want my boots, my shoelaces or my belt and other suicide-related items I've got on me? And they said, don't get smart with us. The reality is that they have that power now to confiscate such items, and when I tried to bring my books back in, this is about 3 months ago, back into Australia, after being over in the US where they're printed, they were confiscated at Brisbane Airport as, again, infringements of this amendment to the Customs Act.
And so that was the Office of Film and Literature Classification?
No, that was the Customs Department, and of course there's conflicting areas here because having had the book seized as a so-called prohibited import, it just occurred to us, and certainly talking to the legal advisors that we had, that it'd be a good idea to see if this book really was a bannable item in Australia. So we submitted one of them, which we got into the country for assessment by the so-called independent body set up by the federal government some time back to check these things, which is the Office of Film and Literature Classification.
And even though it's set up by the government, it's meant to be independent and separate and not open to influence. Yeah,
well, this was supposed to depoliticise the whole issue. This is originally where Don Chipp made such a stand that there was a need to have a body that wasn't being influenced by politicians to assess what should or should not be allowed to be read in the country or seen on film. And they set up this body, and that's supposed to be at arm's length from the government. And so we submitted the book to them. They deliberated for a rather longer time than they first said they would. And when they finally came down with the decision, which was about a month back now, we were pretty pleased and surprised to see that we didn't have a banned book as such. We had a heavily restricted book. It's given a so-called restricted Class 1 licence, which means you can't go around displaying it on the bookshelves, and it has to have a warning label on the cover, but it can legally be produced and distributed in Australia, albeit not imported or exported, and so we immediately printed in Australia.
So that means what the bookshops would have to, put it under the counter or something? Or?
Yes, it depends from state to state, and in fact in Queensland they can't actually sell such items. But in other states, generally they have to be marketed with that warning label on them and not sold to people under the age of 18. And there's a few other variable bits and pieces, but I mean we were pretty pleased with that because we didn't want the book going off to people under the age of 18. It's a sensible control, and of course we started to print in Australia at that point and distribute to bookshops, and they've been selling, not surprisingly, perhaps pretty well.
It's called the Peaceful Pill Handbook.
Yeah, the Peaceful Pill Handbook.
And anyway, so what happened then?
Well, then, next thing I know is that I'm contacted by the media and telling me that the Federal Attorney General, Phillip has put out a press release saying that he's distressed by the decision that has been made by the Office of Film and Literature Classification and telling them to go and do their job again. Now, it smacks a lot of political interference, of course, and I mean the Minister has always got this right to ask them to review their decision. We were a little perturbed to find out that when we started to get the letters that should have come to us before the media contact, that actually it was Right to Life Australia that had first appealed the decision and that Phillip Ruddock and the Attorney General had followed that up and had authorised the review by the full board of the Office in Film and Literature Classification, and that's going to take place next Wednesday.
So that's on Wednesday. So is there decision reached next Wednesday, or are you just appearing for a hearing or something?
Well, the various parties are involved. Right to Life Australia, of course, are making their play very clear. Council of Civil Liberties are annoyed about what's happened, as we are, so our lawyers will be there. And submissions have been put in. This body, the full review board of the Film and Literature Classification, will consider all those submissions. I've been told that I will probably need to be able to answer questions, so I'm going along, coming down from Darwin to be there, and the lawyers will be present, and we'll be arguing why we think that the original decision that it be a restricted but available book to adults should stand, and that the moves made by the federal government and Right to Life should be rejected as I would describe it as unwarranted political interference.
Dignitas, and I want to know, just if I can spare 1/2 minute.
Please do. Bob.
Were you satisfied with the coverage that was in the Australian press for Dr. John Elliott, God rest his soul's departure?
Oh yes, I mean I think that they did a very good job, the journalists, and especially Kate, Gertie, the photographer who was there. She took such powerful photographs, and the Age and the Sydney Morning Herald ran them and still are running them quite extensively. And I guess it really is a case of a picture being a thousand words. I mean, James Button's report was very accurate too, but it's led to, as you would perhaps expect, a flood of comment, and most of it really is along the lines of, do we really have to have our elderly folk making journeys such as this to be able to get a peaceful death at the time of their choosing?
Yeah.
Please keep us updated as to what happens on Wednesday, and we'll report back to our listeners next week.
Oh, good. I certainly will.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Sunday Night Safran on
Demons
Triple J.
born from Lord Brahma's buttocks. That's what it says there. Lord Brahma's buttocks.
Are you you're doing research for what?
For interviewing that Mr. That boy there, Will Day.
The former Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
He doesn't like... I've been warned by the producer that he's one of these people that, like, if you say, oh, are you gay? He goes, oh, no. And he has, like, all these kind of, you know, like, I'm not heterosexual as opposed to gay. So we might get caught down at the start of the interview unless we play by his rules. That happens all the time.
Well, they say to me,
you're interviewing someone and you think you're doing the right thing.
Are you a celibate, Father Maguire? I said, else. He said, well... but you haven't got a girlfriend, or, you know... What the hell? I don't know the vocabulary for all this.
What's it like being a disabled person, little John? Disabled? You insensitive swine.
Exactly.
John Safran. We don't call ourselves disabled anymore.
No.
And then wheel. He wheels himself out of the studio. Yeah. Just offended him. Yes.
That's in real life.
Might have slight.
Making it up, for God's sake.
Now, I went to Sydney last week.
Yeah, I saw that. Nobody mentioned it to me.
Triple J Hottest 100 at Hyde Park. We sat there on the stadium. Lots of people asked about you.
What they say? Is he a real priest?
They were asking where you were. They wanted you to be there. I'm serious. You would have, because I know you.
Right.
You would have
been what?
You would have been overwhelmed with egomania.
Oh, would I? I'd like a nice dose of egomania.
Because Bob's basic angle, he spent what? He spent like 68 years at this church, where basically 93-year-old Italian women would turn up.
And I was only was liberated.
I know. Then in this sudden twist, right at the end, in the coda of your life, you have people who aren't 92-year-old Italian Catholic ladies going to go, oh, you know, you're okay, Father Bob.
Well, I couldn't have been at Triple J's thing anyway, because I was at the front bar of the Esplanade Hotel listening to the new Christs.
It's very confusing when I go up to Sydney because I don't know who the people are that much, you know?
Do some research.
Is Jay and the Doctor, is Jay the tall one or the short one? It's all, I'm always
How do you
sitting
get through
there,
that?
And I don't know. It's always like I don't know who. It's okay that I don't know. Like there'll be someone there who's been doing the morning show for like 10 years, and I'm just sitting there with this grin. I'm like, and trying to figure them out. And
well, you haven't got a generic like Buddy or something? None of that?
I do know is Melbourne's own Zan Rowe, who works for Triple J now in Sydney.
Yeah.
I know her from the ugly Melbourne scene.
Well, what about Triple J's
She started
own?
seeing this Jew, right?
You've got to bring up religion or...
She's not Jewish. She started seeing this Jew. So now she thinks she can goddamn tell me everything. Like, because we went out to the Triple J. We went out for Mel's going away party.
Oh, Mel has gone away, has she?
I had no idea who Mel was, but we had to go away party for her. And then Zan there he's going, oh, John, you can't eat that. I'm like, what do you mean? You can't eat pork? And I'm going, it's not pork, it's duck, for one thing. And she says, yeah, but it's on the same plate as the pork. Whipping out,
love to be there.
Whipping out her Talmud and her Gemara.
Truly.
She's quoting the Rambam.
Oh, it's lovely.
And she's been like seeing this Jewish guy for
lovely.
like 3 weeks or something.
You should wear a little camera that keeps taking your daily life.
And then, of course, I got into my fight with Zan Rowe over. She's always banging. Well, not always, but she's one of these people who saw one of those 9/11 conspiracy videos.
I know, that aeroplane that couldn't fit through that thing. You can't tell me that that's not a conspiracy.
So I just... I can't explain this. Maybe I need a psychiatrist, right? I spend my whole life around people who just say insane things all the time, and usually it doesn't faze me. It's water off a duck's back. Or I actually enjoy it. But 9/11 conspiracy theorists, there's some conflation of annoyance that transforms me into rage, and I just keep on bumping into these 9/11 conspiracy theorists. For example, why is this? The butcher on Carlisle Street, when I go in there to buy my oyster steaks, she's there out of the blue starting talking to me about 9/11 conspiracies and about how the plane was landed in Pennsylvania and then repainted or something and then went up. And you have, if you focus in as it's crashing into the World Trade Center, there's no windows and stuff. And I'm like, I have to sit there. I'm being filled with rage.
Much, isn't it? But you know that the aeroplane that crashed into the Pentagon could not possibly have been an aeroplane because there's no damage commensurate with the airliner.
Bob.
It must have been done with rockets.
Bob, you better be joking.
I saw it on the telly.
That was the stupidest... What was that? That was that one in plain sight. I can't believe Channel 10 ran that.
He said he gave us pictures, three-dimensional. The aeroplane goes in, look at the damage it would have made, and there was none of that. It was done by rockets.
Now, just tell me this, Bob. I don't have a fight with you over 9/11.
White supremacist rockets.
White supremacist rockets. And then let's just talk broadly, right? If the American government was that smart that they could land the planes, change them over, repaint them as missiles with stuck-on polystyrene wings to then go into the World Trade Center. If they're so... and get rid of those 200 people and then plant all the phone calls that they made on the plane to their relatives back. Well, if they're that bigger geniuses, why didn't they plant weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
Yeah, they got caught short, didn't they?
Yes, like that would have really got America off the hook big time if they would have
I'm not
found
saying
weapons.
they were make-believe aeroplanes flew into the World Trade Center.
What are you... Oh, you're saying the one in the Pentagon?
That Pentagon one, the man showed us on the television.
Oh, God.
It wouldn't fit in.
Because I know probably 78% of Triple J listeners are
Right.
9/11 conspiracy theorists. So do you know what really bugs me about them?
What?
Is they can't accept that you don't... Like, you've kind of broadly looked at the evidence yourself and you don't believe it. They think... They set up this thing where if you don't agree with them is because you're part of the system, man, or you're being, you're being confused or whatever, as opposed to you've looked at the information and you think they're idiots.
It won't fit in the building, I'm telling you.
It won't fit in the building. Bob?
The man drew diagrams and we had moving... Anyway, be that as it may, we got a magnificent interview in a moment with Ilana Mercer from South Africa.
But from America now.
But from America now.
But from South Africa.
She had safer in America.
Yes.
Well, there's no conspiracy theories. Right.
Surely the Roots weren't the first band to call themselves the Roots? And surely when the Roots became more and more successful, a few other bands around the world who'd also called themselves the Roots were like, what do we do now? A bit like the Kills and the Killers. How would you like to be in the Kills as the Killers are getting
Killers.
more... Killers. As the Killers are getting more and more successful, and you'd be there rehearsing as the Kills, kind of thinking, at what point do we just give up and sort of do a name change? Because there's too much brand confusion.
Like Mr. McDonald down in Seaford. Macca's. Anyway, be that as it may, so... What,
Father Bob...
Yeah, what about...
in relationship to you being... Is there anything you won't do? You being a celebrity contestant on Eddie Maguire's 100 versus 1 versus 100 quiz show.
This will be the peak of my performances.
And if you're in the Ukraine, it's just this show where there's 100 contestants and then there's one.
And your friend, what's his name, Andrew Bolt, not only he deteriorated into phrenology this morning. Phrenology.
What's phrenology?
He said, have a look at the contestants on either of these shows and you will see that you should not expect much intelligence from them.
No.
Yeah, it's there. You read that.
There was another quiz show on this week which got me all, melancholy. It's called The Rich List.
Yeah.
On Channel 7.
Yeah.
And they put two people who don't know each other together, and then they become a team and they have to answer the questions or whatever, right? That's all fine. You know, good on... Because it is hard. You think it's easy to come up with a game show concept. You try to do that. It's like when I was in high school, it'd always be this thing every couple of years, or probably every year, and me and Weinstein and Weinberg would go, let's make a board game, and we'll be really huge, a bit like Trivial Pursuit or something. And then you actually get down to it. And there's so much... Things that look simple, there's so much complexity. Anyway, what was I... Anyway... So there's this guy, there's one of the teams, and there's this guy who, if I may do some phrenology, if that's the word, was ugly. Oh. And he had he was like a bad dresser. Yeah. And he was fat.
That'll do.
And he had, he was a little too sweaty.
Yeah, that'll do, yes. Oh, mind you, Eddie said he couldn't shake hands with a contestant because he had a sweaty hand.
And he had and he was a bit too red also. Yeah? In the face.
Looks awful.
And he had an appalling haircut. And to make it even more mad, he wasn't that old, if you know what I mean. You know, if...
When he had leprous sores dripping onto the floor of the studio. God save us.
Anyway, he was a relatively young guy who you imagine wouldn't get too much action, right?
All right.
And then he's been matched up with this, just for the sake of answering all the questions, to this hot woman. Ah. And so which is fine. I wasn't even thinking about it, right?
No.
I was just sitting there, leaning back, picking my nose.
Beauty and the Beast, almost.
But then... At points where it was justified for there to be a little physical interaction between the two, for example, they answer a hard-to-answer question and they get a great amount of money, they'd kind of go in for the hug, which was sort of appropriate, because it's such a grey area. Yeah. It is appropriate. They just won, $2,000. Yeah. Go in for a hug. But he'd just hug her for a little too long. Realising it was this very small opening in his life,
and he'd never get a chance to do this again.
Yeah, there was just something. You know, when you can't prove it, you can't put your finger on it, but it's just there. And he'd just be holding her a bit too much. Yeah. And then there was a bit at the very end where he realised it's all going to be over after tonight. Yeah. So his final can you have a final gambit or only an opening
gambit? Yes, no, that's nice. The final gambit.
His final gambit, he did this to her, when she answered. What? And he kept on coming up with excuses to touch her. He'd be going to who's the host? What's his face?
What's his name? Yeah.
That guy. He'd be going, Susie, she's very smart. Good on you, Susie. Tap on the back. Yeah. And then he'd be able to tap Susie on the back and stuff like that. And his final gambit was, he did a thing where he goes, oh, good on you, Susie. And then a tap on her thigh. No. And she was wearing a short dress.
Yes.
So he was like... Because he realised it was over after that moment. It just got me depressed.
No. Well, these shows must give you an enormous thrill, you know, isn't it? I mean, have you spoken to the producer about it?
I haven't been that melancholy since that thing I told you about that down Carlisle Street. There were these hot women who were trying to sign up people for Amnesty International, and the only people who were stopping were... guys, like relatively unattractive guys, and so it was like some weird, sick, creepy dynamic. Where I blame the women, I'm not blaming the men, by the way, in this thing. And they're these women from Amnesty International, who are no doubt getting a commission, are using their female charms to try to get these guys walking up to, because no women would stop. All women would go, "Oh, you skinny bitch," and walk by.
So that was who was in my main street today.
Who was that?
Well, I was going into the bank today and there was 4 beautiful young women.
Yes.
Standing on the corner and smiling and approaching blokes like me, poor buggers.
Yes, not realising you're
I didn't want to
celibate.
listen to them because, I mean, what are they going to say? Excuse me, we want to come round the corner or something? What's going on here? I can't even afford to get involved in a... What do they want? They want me to sign up for something.
Yeah, it would have been like for Greenpeace.
Cheeky girls. I don't think the Aussies like that.
There seems to be this hybrid of the lap dance industry with the Amnesty International signing up industry happening at the moment. Just getting...
one of the girls was jumping up and down on the corner.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I thought, well, hang on. I mean, she's almost performing in public to attract attention. And I was saying to myself, see, is this viral? What do you call it? There's a new form of marketing.
Viral? I think that was like a term that came out in 1987 or whatever.
Oh, I thought it was new. Viral, whatever you call it.
Marketing.
This is how you... Exactly. Now, see, maybe we're supposed to catch it off the corner. So you can catch it off the seat. We catch it off the corner of the street.
I saw it. Do you remember
Very
that?
disturbed I was. I had to go back to the church.
Did you see that appalling 83-hour documentary, The Corporation?
I did, I think.
And they
did.
And in a sea of, what's the word for that?
Cripples.
No, not cripples.
Oh.
But, it wasn't the best film. And the worst bit was one of the worst bits, I can't even remember all the worst bits, where they were trying to convince us, but it was such sort of like extrapolation with no evidence that Sony apparently does ambient marketing or may do ambient marketing where they have people at tram stops talking about Sony products and then you're going to buy them. There were no footnotes for that particular anecdote, let me tell you.
I wonder how that would work.
It'd be quite expensive for Sony, I imagine, to send people to bus corners to
start talking about...
To have conversations with each other so the other person can listen in.
That's an interesting idea. Now, listen, we've driven the audience insane, and yet we've got one of the major, interviews of the year.
Of the decade. Ilana Mercer from America, from South Africa.
Hi.
This is Sunday Night Safran with John Safran and Father Bob.
Joining us on the line, Father Bob, is American writer via South African writer, Ilana Mercer. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, John.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm very well. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, ever since Nelson Mandela was freed and apartheid was overturned, especially in the mainstream media, we haven't heard much news out of South Africa. I'm assuming everything's happy and lollipops are being handed out to everyone and there's a giant rainbow and people are skipping around. Is that an accurate appraisal of the situation?
Not quite, but you should commend yourself for being the only member of the media for discussing the matter.
Why, thank you. Now, You may. What are the problems now? One of them, of course, is AIDS, and I guess a lot of people would have heard about that at the very least.
Yes, I haven't been writing on that much, but that's a huge problem. A large portion of the population in South Africa is infected. Yeah. But
you're more interested in things that you think are totally sidelined by the media, including you're saying a couple of thousand Boer farmers have been killed, and there's pretty much no newspaper column inches for them.
Not a beep, and you won't see Angelina Jolie nowhere near any one of those weekly funerals. No, my dear.
Now, who are the Boers? Ethnically, who are they compared with the broader Afrikaner?
Well, that's a really good question, and I think I have to revise the answer I gave to your lovely producer, Liz. I think it's fair to say that the Boer and the Afrikaner should be used interchangeably. When I was in my columns, I've been writing more about the farming community, which is about 40,000 strong, of whom 2,000 or 5% have been slaughtered. But
and over what years are we talking about? That 2,000 out of 40,000 Boer farmers being slaughtered
since so-called freedom, 94.
Wow, that is a lot of people. And is that how you? I guess is that how you justify using the expression genocide?
Well, actually, I followed the cues of one Gregory Stanton, who heads Genocide Watch. I didn't just decide this was genocide, and he is extremely worried. He's written extensively about genocide, and I guess, the numbers, the small numbers, confuse us. We're used to the Holocaust or Rwanda and so on, where you have these massive numbers. But, certainly the what's happening to the Boers or the farmers is a process of genocide. In other words, they've been stigmatized. They've always been stigmatized by the ANC. So, whenever gatherings and funerals, you'd always hear kill the Boer, kill the farmer, and they're apparently implementing it now. If you have a murder rate, the official murder rate, which apparently is not, is apparently doctored, and it is Interpol, reports at least twice as much, but the official murder rate in South Africa is about, 60 to 100,000. In so-called high crime America, it's 6 to 100,000. The Boers are being murdered at about a rate of 300 per 100,000.
Now, you think a reason it's not getting press, or I guess tons of things around the world don't get press, but in this particular incident, it's because of that slight awkwardness that people perceive white South Africans in the past, before apartheid was broken down, as being the baddies, and now it's a bit of a tangle of a narrative, because you're basically saying it's white farmers who are being killed, and it's I don't know, people don't have much mercy for white South Africans.
Well, you just said it, right. First of all, the West cheered this, this disastrous transition. They brought the old South Africa to its knees with sanctions and a good deal of incitement. Yes, but on a deeper level, you're absolutely right. Western intellectuals are responsible for creating these categories, these victimology doctrines that we follow, whereby certain people are always the oppressors and others are always the oppressed, no matter the reality on the ground.
How could the end of apartheid have played out differently? Like, how could because obviously everyone's against apartheid, how could it have ended and also not resulted in 2,000 Boer farmers being murdered and ignored?
Well, it's not only 2,000. South Africa is the most violent country outside a war zone. So the numbers are astonishing. I think the government banned the release of these statistics, but they do allow, the release once yearly of these statistics. And I think in 2004 there were about, officially, as I say, Interpol always has double the number that the government reports, but they had about, I think it was 20,000 murders for a population of 47. The U.S. at the time, in 2004, was population 290 million, and we had 16,000 murders. So it's a very violent society. It's not only the Afrikaners. But you ask how it could have played out differently, that's a really complicated question. I'm not sure. I really don't have the answers.
And what about, are they getting their land taken away from them in some situations similar to what's happening in other parts of Africa?
Absolutely, and actually maybe one should say that if there wasn't this grand central planning, a grand-scale affirmative action that has been instituted throughout all government departments and businesses, private businesses, there practically aren't any property rights, which are the cornerstone of civilization and certainly investment and prosperity. So certainly if we didn't have this grand scheme of replacing the old order, or at least competent people with incompetence, then surely we might not have had this scenario. So that would be one of my assessments. I guess affirmative action has been disastrous.
And are white South Africans trying to move out of the country at the moment, or they're, I guess like everyone, they just have their families and their heritage there, so do they want to dig their heels in no matter what?
You know, I find that here in America, people don't understand how hard it is to immigrate legally. So first of all, we have the Afrikaner nation, and I think we need to really reappraise these people. As an English ex-South African, I can just tell you truthfully that they were always denigrated by liberal English sorts, you know. But they are extremely attached to the land and to the country. They were there since the 1600s, much like the settlement of America, Australia. You know, they are amazing farmers. They are as African as anything, but they just have this distinct European culture. So they are not as happy to move as people like myself. And the other facet to this is that it's extremely difficult to leave legally. You know, we have a massive illegal immigration problem. So illegal immigrations have advocates and have, you know, left liberals rooting for them and forking out for their establishment in this country. But there are no advocates for, you know, bringing over the Boers, at least, should be classified as potential refugees.
And I hear there's some white South Africans who are considering going back now. Why are they considering going back if if they've heard all the horror stories?
I have no idea. I wouldn't. You tell me, why would someone knowing the facts, if they know the facts, many don't know the facts, or at least are in denial, to use a cliche, but I think Afrikaners find it very hard to acclimatize elsewhere. They really are, you know, there are people that are extremely attached to South Africa. They built the place, they did. And that's why, you know, if your listeners go to my blog at ilanamercer.com, they can read heartbreaking letters from people who have seen their country crumble. So for them, it's very hard to acclimatize outside South Africa. They love the place. For me, I never had a great connection to there. I say...
What's your particular biographical details? Your family's from there, you were born there, and when did you move out?
Well, I was born there but grew up in Israel. My family departed. My father was active on the other side. He was an anti-apartheid activist who's certainly seen the errors of his ways since, because he's still in South Africa and exposed to, lives in terror. But my folks took me to Israel, where I grew up, another hotspot. So, I grew up there and then went back to South Africa, from where I immigrated to North America.
And no chance you're going to be going back?
No, not even for a visit. I'm very aware of the dangers of being victimized.
Thank you very much for joining us, and good luck. And your website's ilanamercer.com.
Thank you, John, for asking me. Bye-bye.
Sunday Night Safran on Triple J.
Now, Father Bob, you seem to throw around the word fascist like so much confetti.
Yeah, I do.
I can't tell you, listeners, the proportion of guests we have on where Bob just sits there smiling, or if you ask any question, it's like totally sucky and whatever. Then as soon as like we go to the song, microphone's off, fascist.
Fascist.
That's what you said about Andrew Bolt as soon as he left.
Sorry, Andrew.
And what's your problem with Ilana Mercer? You thought it eased into some kind of or what?
Well, it's the same with your conspiracy theory about the bloody aeroplane didn't fly into the Pentagon.
Well, no, this is totally different. This is a reality.
But how do I know? The lady is saying that X number of white people have been killed by what? That's all I'm saying.
I think that's offensive,
What?
Father Bob. I really do. I think
Then
everyone,
what is?
I think everyone agrees there's
How do you know? You haven't got the numbers?
There's an incredibly high murder rate
Where?
in South Africa.
Where are the numbers coming from? I'm not saying it's not true. I'm simply saying, why have we got no access to the numbers apart from Ilana Mercer?
Well, you see, that's ridiculous too, Bob. You can't put me on the spot here and say, well, because I don't have, you know, the booklets with me from the United Nations here, that means
over there.
I will Google it. Bob, you're sounding like a fool. Well, everyone... I thought you were more in the area of you didn't quite like how she was easing into sort of implying that maybe it was better under apartheid. I understand that if that's your point.
I want to question the whole argument, including the numbers.
Well, thank you, David Irving.
Because they're terrible big numbers.
I think you are being very selectively...
What, because Ilana Mercer tells you the numbers, you're going to believe her straight away?
I've read things besides Ilana Mercer.
Oh, well, that's a different thing then.
Okay.
That's a different thing. I haven't read anything else besides Ilana Mercer because I've been hoodwinked by the pinko leftists and Archbishop Tutu and Mr Mandela to believe that fair go has been given to the white Afrikaners.
Ilana, I hope you're still listening to this because that's what you are up against. People like Father Bob...
against...
who actually... Didn't you get the whole point of the interview was to break that myth that everything was happy now?
We've got no obligation to break myths. What are you talking about? This is Triple J.
OK, we won't break myths.
No.
And no Iraqis are being killed and, you know, it's all
not saying that. You see, what do you can't apply one argument to another set of circumstances.
Oh, OK.
Get the facts.
When it's a lefto-pinko kind of issue, we've just got to take on board everything, but something slightly different.
They were there for 300 years.
Yes.
All right? They caused enormous distress amongst the majority African people.
Oh, really? So yes. all the 18-year-old Boers...
18-year-old Boers?
Yes. In 2007, they caused all this distress back in 1792.
No, their ancestors did.
Yes.
And set up an institutional... an institution, government,
yes,
which was responsible for what you incorrectly pronounced apartheid, which is apartheid.
Oh, really? Did I put a 13?
Now, all I'm saying is 20 years... How long since apartheid was abolished? 20 years?
You're pretty generous with other people's lives, Father Bob.
No, you see, you've got a fixation on this number of dead people. God rest their souls, I'm saying, but I'm saying you haven't given me a chance to get the numbers.
Triple J.
If you asked out there in listening land for somebody else to come up with another, why wouldn't you want another set of numbers?
Fine. That's fine. I'll take what you say on notice. I think it's fairly selective, and if I may say so, offensive cynicism.
Go to hell.
Father Bob?
Now, what about this next person?
The
this
Goppy?
Lovely, yes, Will.
I guess you better... It's going to be difficult for you because we've got him over the phone, so you don't know what skin colour he is, so you don't know whether to have empathy or bile.
Will, for God's sake, come and save me from this torture.
Triple J, this is John Safran. That's Father Bob Maguire.
Take me for being a racist. Will Day will save us.
Will Day has written a story. Story makes it sound like he's like in grade 6 or something. Written a piece in the latest edition of... Please pronounce that journal's name, because I keep on pronouncing it wrong. Meanjin.
Oh, Meanjin. Meanjin, is it Meanjin?
I was a teenage goppy girl, which draws on his experiences in the Hare Krishna movement. Will Day, are you there? Hello? Hello? Will?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you both loud and clear.
I thought you switched off after you've heard his ridiculous attack on me.
No, I'm still here.
Now,
Good.
Will... I was a teenage goppy girl. You're clearly not a girl. What's a goppy girl?
Okay, what's a gopi girl? A gopi girl is a cowherd girl.
Yes.
And cowherd girls are very important in the Vaishnava tradition, and the Vaishnava tradition is the Indian tradition of worship of Vishnu, which has many different strands. And the Hare Krishna movement that you see, we've seen in the city streets of Australia for a few decades, is one of those strands. Vishnu and Krishna are essentially the same god. Some followers emphasise Vishnu, some followers emphasise Krishna. In the Hare Krishna movement, it's understood that Krishna is the supreme version of Vishnu, which means that actually Vishnu is a version of Krishna.
Now, you weren't born into a Hare Krishna family, correct?
No, not at all.
And so why did you ease into them? Why and when did you ease into them?
Well, to begin with, I should say, I didn't ever ease in the sense of becoming, a 24-hour-a-day, fully-fledged devotee living in the ashram, although at a period of time in the 90s I did live in the ashram briefly and then lived at a Krishna preaching centre for a period of time.
Did you have the bells on your toes? I think that's what everyone wants to know.
I didn't wear the regalia.
Yes.
No. But, I was at the temple every day doing the program, and reading the literature, loving it. And how did I get there? Well, I guess I grew up in the Catholic tradition, which I never had any problems with. But in the 60s and 70s, the worship side of the Catholic tradition was a very dry thing, although in the 70s it became a very sentimental thing, which was in a way...
We started dancing in church for good.
Yeah, exactly. And
you just missed out, mate.
I just missed out. Yeah, well, I copped that in the 70s when I was at school, and aspects of that were lovely. I really enjoyed my Catholic schooling, but some years later, what I found with the Krishnas was and this is in Catholicism, it's in Christianity too, but it's, for various reasons, it's been more hidden until you could say much more recently, and that is the exuberance, the rejoicing, the celebration of the senses.
He's right,
All that stuff was just so redolent in the Hare Krishna world, and there's a whole
And
field.
in the Hindu world, isn't it?
Yeah.
And throughout.
Yeah. And so walking into a temple or into worship that was designed a long, long time ago to engage all the senses and celebrate that engagement was a beautiful thing. It's a tradition I have a great love for and a great affection for. It's still very important in my life. However, for me personally, the kind of do-or-die fundamentalist strand that's probably at the centre of the Hare Krishna tradition.
We don't see that out on the streets. It all seems like pretty just like the hippie movement, perhaps with a kind of touch of spirituality, but you're saying there is a centre that is more extreme.
No, I would say the centre is actually beautiful, wild, free, entirely playful and all-embracing. However, institutions, it's happened with most religious institutions, grab that core, which is the essential life force or creativity or godness, grab that core and like to systematise it and interpret it. And unfortunately, that's there in...
What's an example of a particular thing that happened whilst you were around that you just did not like?
That I didn't like? There are many things that I didn't like. Obviously, they don't outweigh the things that I love. It bothers me when I walk into a preaching class which is fundamentally about what's wrong with everyone else. That bothers me.
Well, that's our show. That's me and Bob's show.
Yeah.
I just got done over myself a minute ago by the major host.
I heard a bit of that.
Look at that. Rolled. Bang. Straight over.
But, there are lots of things I didn't like about it, and that's, I guess, why I couldn't ever, become a full-time, fully-fledged devotee. But those things, as far as I'm concerned, are actually superficial because the core of it is a very beautiful, exuberant love of God thing. So.
Now, it says here that you became happy with a lot of the prejudices, including homophobia.
Yeah, well, that was, I think, for most... I would suggest that for most homosexual people, male or female, involvement in any institutionalised religion is difficult, and I certainly came up against that stuff.
So the Hare Krishna movement has a stand on homosexuality.
Look, I wouldn't say there's a stand because it's like all religions. Again, it's made up of individuals.
Yes.
People tend to think that the Catholic Church is the institutional hierarchy, or they think that the Hare Krishna movement is the institutional hierarchy. But actually, it's individuals that make up any religious faith, isn't it? And those individuals have all sorts of stances on things. So in going in, it's a matter of you're attracted, and you're attracted to what you love, and I guess to a certain extent you can let things go. But for me, ultimately, the homophobia was one of the things that I just felt, and it's partly due to what's going on inside me, but it's also due to what's going on in the institution. I just felt that I could never be fully fledged there because it didn't feel like a place where I could be fully myself. And I think a relationship with the divine, if it's real and devotional, then the divine is always, I think, the life force is always calling you to be fully yourself. That's the gradual call. And if you've been called to be fully yourself, that means fully who you are sexually and fully who you are intellectually and physically, all sorts of things. And
what is the esoteric practice, and I'm pronouncing this right, and if you've been pronouncing this differently your whole life, you've got it wrong, because I've got it right, of Raganuga Bhakti Sadhana.
Well,
don't even bother correcting my pronunciation, I've got it right.
It was a kind of a Turkish or Persian pronunciation, maybe. But no, John, like that, Raganuga Bhakti Sadhana is a practice, it's understood in the kind of mystical core of Vaishnavism, which is, Vishnu or Krishna worship. In the mystical core, there's what's called confidential practice, which is, based on a belief that the soul of all of us have a soul, and it's eternal, and for most of us, that eternal soul has the form of a 14-year-old girl.
What?
And she's a gopi girl, she's a cowherd girl, and she lives permanently in Krishna Loka, which is Krishna's heaven, which is understood to be better than the Krishna heaven, but it's roughly speaking their version. And the cowherd girls people Krishna Loka, where they spend all their time playing with Krishna, cooking for him, plaiting.
And hang on. So, do we have her inside of us? Is she like our guardian?
Yeah. She's covered, so most of us don't have any intuition of it or even know about it, but she's in there.
Do we all have our own individual one? Like, is it like a guardian angel?
Yeah, no, it is us. It's our essential nature. And
we're all 14-year-old cow herders.
Yeah, cowherd girls. Yeah.
Is she an avatar? Is she an avatar?
No. It's not like an avatar, Bob, because an avatar is actually a manifestation of God, whereas these are our souls. It's like in the Catholic tradition they talk about, there's a tradition in Catholicism, Bob, I know you know, where the soul is referred to as female.
Yes.
And God is referred to as a mother too, that sort of stuff. But
beautiful.
Yeah, it's very rich.
So this is this is the feminine side of each person.
You could say it's the feminine side of each person.
You'd say it's the feminine in each person.
I'd say it's the essential self, which just happens to be a 14-year-old gopi girl. And even while we live our lives here of flesh and blood as men and women, we are at the same time always in heaven as a 14-year-old girl playing with Krishna. And the idea is, the practice of Raganuga Bhakti Sadhana is you get initiated, your guru tells you exactly which 14-year-old girl you are, and then you spend your life here on earth imitating her daily activities in Krishna Loka, and by
in reality you do. So you wake up in the morning and you herd a goat.
Yeah. And if you don't have a goat, or if you don't have a goat, well then it's a work of the imagination that goes on all day.
Oh, that's nice.
And by dint of that repeated imitation, it's a spiritual practice. The understanding is that you gradually transform into your true essential self. And then you're permanently always playing with Krishna and Krishna Loka, even if you are, as far as others are concerned, here on earth.
A chartered accountant.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the very, very mystical practice of Raganuga Bhakti Sadhana.
Do you get to dress like her too?
Or? No, you don't, you fool.
There's a lot of controversy about that. In India, certain followers do actually dress as gopi girls, and often people of unconventional sexuality are drawn to that particular path, and they live that life. And some very conventional practitioners, Vaishnavas, are very critical of them, and others are more welcoming. But they also have a very important part in the culture. They're often called around at baptisms and weddings because they're understood to bring good luck. So they have a place, but they're also marginalised at the same time.
Do you dress as a 14-year-old girl?
No, I don't. I don't pretend to be a practitioner of Raganuga Bhakti Sadhana because I haven't been initiated into that particular practice. However, I think like many of us, and this is possibly controversial, I have a slight intuition of the symbolic meaning and experience of that.
Oh, that is outrageous. I'm stomping out of the studio now. That's it. I'm going. Yeah. I can't yet.
There's probably something similar in Judaism, John, I would wager, because...
Yeah, they've got hidden things.
Yeah, and, they're all there.
And the Muslims are waiting for a hidden imam.
Yeah.
See? They've all got hidden things.
And John, Bob, why the 14-year-old girl is regarded as the form that the soul takes. It's because...
Is this going to be creepy?
No, it's really lovely, I think.
Okay, sorry.
It's sweet, put it that way. The 14-year-old girl, some of the pundits say, is the form that the soul has because the 14-year-old girl is the human form capable of the most ardent love of the beloved.
For God's sake, it's pedophilia or something.
Well, I'm not suggesting that.
No, but the Wests wouldn't they? The Westerners would get a fright at that.
Well, some would get a fright at that.
Well, don't you get a fright at it? I'm just saying that...
No, it doesn't fright. I just think it's all...
It's interesting, isn't it?
I mean, don't feel like you're talking to someone who's like... I don't...
Channeling or something.
No. I don't mind if... I can be critical of the Hare Krishna movement, and I have, as the older I get, the more I get drawn back to my Catholicism. So Krishna's still very much a part of my life, but, I'm very much a Catholic too. So it's not like I'm precious about either tradition. I think they're all ways of, going towards God. But that Hare Krishna, there's so much love of life in there, even though a lot of the rhetoric is this material world's evil and we've got to get out of here as soon as possible.
I just find the smiling too much.
What?
The overt, with it's not only Hare Krishnaism, but a lot of the kind of Hindu-related ones, they put on a smile and they smile at you.
Well, it frightens you, doesn't it?
I'm used to Carlisle Street where everyone's walking up and down grumbling.
Yeah, grumbling. Yeah. Well, you should. In the 1970s, John, it's not like this now, but I'm sure Bob would remember. In the 1970s, the streets of the city and the streets of the suburb were full of different sects and cults of different types of religion, proselytising and just walking, not knocking on doors, just walking down the streets and stopping you with those smiles and offering you, comic books often when they were Christian-oriented and things. And, so the smiles can be phony, but smiles can also be really genuine.
I was a teenage gopi girl falling in and out of love with the Hare Krishnas. Where can we read that? Because I don't want to pronounce the name of the journal. I get it wrong.
It's in the latest journal of Meanjin, which is all on faith. Faith is, and it's interesting from a queer point of view because at least 3 of the pieces in there are substantial pieces about homosexuality in relation to different churches, and it's interesting. There's a few in there about that, and it's just it's a good read anyway. There's so many different things.
Thank you very much for joining us, Will Day.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Will.
We've got to stop talking so much and then having to cut out the religious song of the week.
Yeah, all the interesting bits. And the abuse.
Yes. Because by the way, I've spent 25 seconds on the Amnesty International website.
Yeah, and you found 55,000 white farmers were raped.
Well, not white farmers were raped, but, just about... Oh, now you're shifting the goalposts, are you?
What were you saying?
You were making the broad claim that there's, not an amazing amount of violence and murder.
No, I'm not making that point. There is an amazing amount of violence.
And
you're
murders?
saying that white people are being murdered at a genocidal rate. That's what your Mrs. Mercer saying.
She defined it as there's 40,000 Boer farmers compared with just Afrikaners in general. So out of that 40,000, if 2,000 have been murdered over the last 10 years, that's 5%.
Is she saying 40,000 people were murdered?
No, she's saying out of a community of 40,000 that you could describe as having a distinct ethnicity, the Boer farmers.
Well, how many?
2,000 over the last...
Out of 40,000?
Yes.
That's not genocide. What are you talking about? God knows we're going to get into a fight over what genocide is or not.
5%'s not enough for you.
I'm not saying that. I thought you said 40,000 farmers.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Therefore, I said,
by the way, if anyone's got any
numbers.
information about violence in South Africa, please go to triplej.net.au.
Yeah. And thank you to
because I want so much ammunition to boot into this racist
Ilana Mercer, thank you. She did the show.
Thank you, Will Day.
And Anthony Venn-Brown.
And thank you, Dr. Phillip Nitschke. And thank you, listeners and people who listen in the Ukraine and all over the world to our podcast.
Yes.
Triple J.